Hey, what is up, traders, and welcome back to Uplift Markets. Today is June 20th, and we are trading the overall equities here. The top names that we're looking out for today are going to be Nvidia and Palantir, and also SoFi, due to the fact that they've been seeing pretty nice moves on the day. And there's also the increased volatility today on Friday, as it's triple witching, where we have stock options expiring alongside stock index options, like for example the triple Q, the SPY, and overall some futures expiring. So that triple witching is going to take a lot in factor for the overall volatility here that we're going to be seeing in the market. Overall, we can look at an overall analysis here of how the market is doing on the day. So if we get over here, so looking at the overall Uplift Markets newsletter, if we can pull that up properly. Right here, we see the overall rundown for today, June 20th. And the main headlines that came in today was that Trump has set an official deadline for Iran before being able to make a decision if the U.S. is going to be involved in the overall conflict, which has investors on edge. As well, the robotaxi review is possibly going to be delayed, as Texas lawmakers and a lot of individuals have been telling Elon Musk to delay it towards September, when there's less regulation hurdles, pretty much. So yeah, like the U.S. market is steady. It was kind of declining a little bit at the pre-market as a potential Iran conflict, and oils has been swinging as there's some fears that Iran will block the Strait of Hormuz. And as well, SoFi stocks climbed the pre-market after striking a smart data integration deal with Benzinga. The whole goal of SoFi is to become a broker, and it's had an increase in news here. So important economic data that came in today was not really too major. We only had the Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index, which actually came lower than the forecast, so showing less manufacturing within the area. But the most important economic numbers that we got were mostly on Wednesday and Tuesday. But not any major ones right now, so we shouldn't really factor that in, be too worried about that. But some of the economic numbers that we should be looking out for over the next couple of days, or the next week, should be the following. So on Monday, we get existing home sales. It's going to be a very important number to look out for, as it's going to show pretty much the overall how the market is doing. Also, is going to impact any stock that's impacted and related to real estate, right? We can also look, for example, when this number drops, look at the overall XLRE, which is the ETF for real estate. On Tuesday, we're going to be getting a little bit of Fed Chair Powell, a little bit of testimony. We're going to get these overall numbers, but not too important. I'd say for Monday, that's probably just that, the Fed Chair Powell testimony, as well, testimony, not really nothing important. Thursday, finally, we're going to get GDP growth rate quarter over quarter. Is going to be a very important number to gauge the overall market. We actually came in at an overall GDP contraction, and this is the actual final number. So we're going to be seeing overall if the economy is slowing down, and there's been hints that it is slowing down, right? There's retail sales year over year came in lower, and also month over month came in lower, and yeah, pretty much with this GDP number coming in lower, it's also going to signify, adding the confluence that, pretty much the economy is slowing down here. We're also going to be getting initial jobless claims, so these are very important numbers. So you can pretty much say we don't get any important economic numbers that may impact the market until Thursday, June 26th. So it'll be like a week from now. Should be really important. And Friday as well, we get PCE index month over month, personal spending month over month, but not really important. Also Michigan consumer, but not really too important. The overall rundown for today was that, like I said, President Donald Trump set a 2-week deadline to determine whether the U.S. will become involved in the escalating Israel-Iran conflict, right? Raising that market volatility onto the weekend. The overall market was flat, not really too extensive. Oil was pretty volatile. Crude holding above 76 and WTI nearing $75. And meanwhile, Fed Chair Powell held firm on a data-dependent approach, as we know. If you guys follow the live stream, the Fed decided to keep the rate steady at a 4.5%. So no change, no rate cut at all. The trade of the day was SoFi Technologies, as it's absolutely looking amazing on a daily chart, seeing intense upper momentum. It's above the swing high anchored VWAP from this high, as you guys know, and it's only setting up for bullish momentum. It's above all EMAs like the 50, the 200 on the daily, and I see a price target. Firmly believe that SoFi can reach $17 and even challenge the highs of 18 and break above if it all looks good from here, right? And it's looking good for them, right? If there's a lot of expectancy for the Fed cuts later on, there's still two factored in for the rest of the year. We'll have to see. I mean, if we get at least one, it also help pretty much SoFi and just give more credence to this overall trend that it's been seeing towards upside. And yeah, I see it can firmly achieve $17 and even break above $18 all-time highs. So I'm looking really bullish on that name. And yeah, the overall news that came in today was that there was a strategic partnership with Benzinga, which, as we know and day traders know, is a newsfeed, right? Real time, really good service. And the overall move will integrate Benzinga's market intelligence, including analyst ratings, earnings data, and all that, as it's trying to become a little bit of a broker here for SoFi's new investing platform, right? So that's pretty much why I was looking at SoFi here on the day. And the overall market has been kind of declining, but now it's seeing a little of a bid. But as we can say, overall the markets have been having a hard time getting above the overall triple Q all-time highs, right? Because there's a lot of uncertainty, right? A lot of cautious tone around tariffs, geopolitical tensions. So the markets are having a little bit of a hard time deciding where to go and where to firmly go. For example, Nvidia had a very strong decline, very strong, after some news that came in. For example, TSMC, I believe TSM is going to have a little bit of a limits on the overall exports, so it kind of impacted Nvidia here, sent it propulsing down towards the downside. That was that big counter that came in around 740, failed below, it reached around this S2, and we're seeing now a bounce here on Nvidia. But still, it's looking like a short unless it gets above VWAP and reverses this move. But still looking like a short because we're still below these key areas and these key important metrics overall here on the Nasdaq. And as we can see, we can try to zoom out and look at the, for example, here. Let's see, we can zoom this in right here. Let's see. So as we can see here, looking on a daily chart of the triple Q, we see this very zone right here. I'm still bullish as well because although the market is having a hard time, tough time getting above the all-time highs, we've been kind of ranging, and it's quite interesting to note here that we've been holding this area of consolidation, right? And to further add credence, we can zoom out, take this little indicators here, zoom it out, and let me help you guys here. So let's remove this just to clear things up a little bit, that as well, and that as well. So as we can see, the market had all-time highs near the beginning of the overall year until we had those tariffs talks, and you guys know the big story, right? And we just declined heavily. We saw nothing but selling, and we got pretty extended, right? We did more than 10% decline from the highs, which kind of signified that we were kind of in a overall bearish sentiment, bearish market, and it pretty much we also saw the fear and greed drop pretty down, towards pretty extreme fear. And then we had a nice bounce, and then, kind of Trump, had a little bit of, kind of stepped back a little bit. We saw that momentum. And I think this was, I guess, one of the biggest rallies since World War II. I mean, we were at 414. We closed the day at 469. That's a very intense move. And I think on the day, let's see if we measure that move, it was up 12%. And generally the market on a day, triple Qs generally does around 2%, max 4%, sometimes 5%, but 12%, that was, something unseen. So we saw that nice bounce. I guess a lot of people starting to get liquidated. And, if you plot that swing high from that anchored VWAP, pretty much the sellers that came in, the long, pretty much the market started to become bullish at the close break here of 475. So since we're above that so far right now, today is June 20th, and we're still above that quite well. The market is overall, we could say, bullish, right? Although it is having some time getting above the $542 level, a lot of hard time. But for example, using Fibonacci retracements, kind of measuring that move, the market kind of dipped back to Fibonacci. This retracement found support, and I'm expecting over the next couple of days, since we're kind of ranging, if we don't break above the highs, we don't have like a catalyst that allows the market to propulse higher, then I expect maybe a pullback here towards a 510, 511, where we previously found some support right there. That would be a nice area to possibly look for buys here on the overall market in general and overall stocks. But still, we have our price target here of 622 for the triple Qs. We believe the market can go higher just right now with the current geopolitical tensions and the increased volatility that we're seeing with all the headlines. It's pretty much of a news headline driven market. It's kind of difficult to for investors to gauge that future momentum, where we can go. But if we see any type of positive news, then we will go towards the upside here on the triple Qs. And yeah, we're not looking for a crash. It's not looking negative right now. We're just sustaining here pretty much. Taking a look here with the increased volatility, we would expect gold to be seeing some pretty intense moves, and it's pretty weird, right? We've been seeing all this increased volatility, especially with the fears of the Israel and Iran conflict getting a little bit bigger, but we don't see gold making all-time highs or seeing this nice move that it had previously when we had that tariff uncertainty, right? So I guess the market isn't really factoring it in, or it's not too scared of the overall conflict, or I'm not too sure about the investor sentiment, but the price action here is showing that we're not seeing all-time highs or crazy action in gold, which is, as we know, is a safe haven, and generally right now it's just just consolidating, right? So we had a nice bullish trend, right? Bullish upside, and now we're just kind of flagging, right, or just being consolidated within this range, right? So any break above, then that would continue towards the upside, right, whenever this breaks, right? But yeah, I would expect gold to be seeing all-time highs, and same thing for Bitcoin, right? We're seeing all this conflict in the Middle East and with Russia, but and Bitcoin having a very difficult time achieving all-time highs. It kind of maybe defeating the purpose of Bitcoin here, right? We had a very nice all-time highs here around January, and then Trump came in, and we declined a little bit, but we found a nice rally, support here. Increase in move, but we're having a hard time just getting above, and 111,000, the all-time highs that were formed. We're still above key indicators like the 50 MA, the 200, like I said, but we are looking like we're prone for a pullback here on overall Bitcoin, and we still have our price target maintained at $130,000 here for Bitcoin. And it's obviously based off of the overall move that we had using here the majority of the pullback and projected move towards the upside. We do have that price target there for Bitcoin. And also, I guess kind of like, a trade that kind of went south, and, good thing we didn't enter that name, is pretty much Ethereum. Also, as Bitcoin was trying to break out, we saw nothing. Let's see, let me take this off. As Bitcoin was trying to break out, Ethereum, we thought was going to also move, right, with Bitcoin achieving highs, and we expected everything to follow the leader, which was Bitcoin, and we did not. And still, we are accumulating here, and we're coming back to this level here, this area of support, you could say, of 2,400, and we know we're bouncing off of, but each time we're bouncing off with less propulsion towards the upside. So it's showing us here that the buyers are less motivated here to defend this level. We're not seeing that movement towards the upside that we would like to see. We're just consolidating, and if this level breaks, which is looking to most likely break, then we expect overall Ethereum to decline all the way to 1800. Right here's the next area, which this was prior area of resistance, and as we know, once it breaks, then it may test and act as a level of support here where the buyers may come in right here at this level. So it's just a matter of time before we see that decline overall. They're looking at the overall max 7, taking out the here the overall watch list. Looking at the overall market on the intraday time frame, we are seeing a pretty nice bounce off this decline that we had. The market is down a little bit less than 0.25% here, and using VWAP we are well below it here on the day. So the shorts are winning here. We had a bounce here off the pivot point. We're seeing nothing but an increase in bounce here, so it's quite nice to see. Looking at Apple as well, we had a strong decline, and now we're seeing that bounce on Apple. So the 197 break could be the reversal towards the long. Try to have it towards there. So yeah, we are seeing that bounce there in the market. Microsoft as well, declining on the day, but now it's seeing a little bit of a bounce here. Not looking too bad. Let's see if we plot, let's say a 50 EMA, see who's in control of the overall trend. Kind of put that on here. Yeah, so we've been, kind of finding some support here, kind of whipping between the 50 EMA. So it's kind of showing us that there are some buyers here on Microsoft. As well on Nvidia, this one we declined heavily. We broke the 50 EMA. We came back, actually retested it, and we failed it. We saw that sharp decline here towards the downside. You may find some resistance around this area. We have a pivot point that was prior area of support. We broke that pivot point, the VWAP, and this 50 EMA. So this area here, it looks like an area here, this confluence zone, an area of resistance where we may reject and continue the downside move. Here on Nvidia, and I'm saying that because there's 3 levels here that are matching, almost 4, right, but pretty much 3: a pivot point area, intraday VWAP, and the 50 EMA. So within this range of 144.50 and 144.90, so around a 50-cent overall confluence zone, we are seeing that rejection towards the downside. On Google, it's been seeing nothing but downside. Very weak name, extremely far off from VWAP. And as you can see, looking at a 30-minute, it broke a prior area here. Was kind of ranging between the day. It broke here, opened the day, closed below that, below the 50. It's just been intensely, selling on the day. We had a nice uptrend, reversed that now. It's selling pretty deeply here on Google, and it's been kind of less favored, right? It's believed that with ChatGPT and all that, OpenAI, the way that people are searching now, search volume has decreased on Google, and I can kind of, see that thesis, right? That, when you have a question, for example, instead of going on Google and asking it how it used to be back then, you just go with Gemini, LLM, and ask it, and it answers the question for you. So I guess that's why, they're really heavily, investing in, in the development of all these models, Google VO3, the model, the video model, all that, and as well with having Gemini 3, adding Notebook LM for students, free access, right? So they're really pushing the overall ecosystem to their users, and they're getting that feedback, pretty much that loop, to be a competitor with OpenAI. And if we look at the daily chart of Google, right, it's been not really towards the upside. It is breaking above, but compare that to, let's say, Microsoft, right, on the daily. It's just been nothing but upside, and that's obviously has to do with OpenAI, right, their investment, I believe, and the strong cloud that that was seen on overall Microsoft on their earnings, right. They beat, and they had a very strong revenue growth. So that's why we've been seeing the stock not only kind of decline a little bit here after the earnings, but just propulse higher, immense uptrend. We haven't pulled back at all to that earnings anchored VWAP, but also not even the 50. So it just shows how much the buyers have been present here on Microsoft since the earnings. So that's pretty much my outlook there on Microsoft there, and there it is, kind of bouncing now. We're seeing that bounce there. Let's see, going now to Amazon. It's had a very heavy decline. I do not know why. It still looks pretty bearish on the day. We're kind of, I guess you can say, maybe consolidating around the zone, maybe some profit taking, and kind of digesting this downward move that we had. Let's see if you have any news. Yeah, it was pretty suspicious, right? Oppenheimer raised the price targets for Amazon to 250. I mean, overall in the long term, I'm very bullish on Amazon. I believe they're very strong on their AWS, and just investors need to give it a chance, right? For that growth, and any dips here honestly are going to be bought pretty heavy by investors and hedge funds, I believe. And I'm pretty bullish on this name overall. It's one of my top holdings on the I'd say longer term account here. Looking at Meta, yeah, it's been declining, right? There's been those news that CEO Mark Zuckerberg is pretty, I say, heavily invested in developing the new AI model, right? The overall intelligence, right, where AI thinks by itself, right? It's he hasn't been too happy with the market receivement of Llama AI, and I haven't used Llama at all, so I guess he's right. So he's been having a lot of talks and meetings with his developers and all that, to pretty much be the top competitor, the top of the top here. And on the daily chart, this name's been very, very bullish, nothing but increasing. And but for me, their ad revenue is also increasing, but it's kind of time it pulls back, right? It's looking like it's consolidating. It's kind of prone for a pullback either towards the 644 area or 664, and I firmly believe it will find buyers around this area here if it does decide to pull back. Here overall on the daily, it's looking absolutely amazing, right? But it's kind of prone for a pullback, nothing but increased upside on the name. Tesla, this one's very could say controversial right now. The robotaxi is expected to be postponed, like I said in my video, when we had that little Tesla and Trump feud. Kind of he's allowing things to kind of settle down, and also regulation hurdles. Right now is not the best time to unleash it. Kind of they can only leave the hype as well, but the projected robotaxi reveal is now expected to be towards September, the beginning of September, with less regulation hurdles, and the stock pretty much obviously sold off of that, and it's now kind of seeing some kind of curling action. The 50 MAs here, we'll have to see it. I mean, it's going to be bullish if it breaks above 324, but the overall stock has been doing nothing but consolidating the 200 EMA on the daily, and it's been seeing, for example, if we zoom out, right? We always have to zoom out the longer term trend. We saw a big move, right? But then we had that very strong decline here on this Trump feud. It was Thursday, June 5th, and we've been nothing but consolidating here, kind of digesting the news, investors, what's going to happen, what's right towards the future. So we've been seeing, a little bit of consolidation around that zone, and, we can, plot in another EMA here, the 200, which will allow us to see, how the longer term trend is doing, right? Counting the average there of the 200 past 200 days, we'll put that as white. And yeah, we found some support here, some buyers, right? Kind of prevented us to keep declining downward, and also it was kind of oversold. The RSI was showing that, so that's what we saw this kind of bounce. But we're having some trouble, getting above this 334, and the stock has been nothing but ranging since overall it's been almost 2 weeks, so it's probably a week and a half. So we have to see what Tesla does. If it breaks above here, then it can set up towards the upside. If it breaks down here, then we'll see if it holds around this 200 EMA $300 level, right? You may find confluence over here, so we have to see there. Let's see on the defense names. Palantir, very strong name, really bullish on this name overall. If you guys watched the video, I did a little bit of a deeper analysis. How we have our price target towards $200 level. In the longer term, this company is very strong, especially now with overall belligerencies. Unfortunately, the stock is seeing that upside, and the government contracts, they keep pouring in, and I really like the leadership as well. I really like the CEO, Alex Karp. He's really determined. I like what he's doing with the company and how he's pretty much providing that return towards investors, right? So I'm really liking this name. It's been nothing but bullish towards upside, and I actually called out this name here at around the $90 break. If you guys look back at my video, kind of give a little bit of a detailed explanation here of how it can achieve that price target of 158 first, and then 160. Probably pull back, and then on the long term, achieve that $200 level price target there. Because the company's fundamentals are pretty strong, and the technicals are not matching the fundamentals, so it's adding up quite well. Let's see, SMCI, this name, I remember when it IPO'd, and it was seeing nothing but upside strength. Very, very strong name, upside momentum, but we've been nothing but declining, right? I remember this name IPO'd. It was kind of around when Nvidia was going crazy. Yeah, January 2024, and it just went up to like $1,000. Obviously, the stock had a split. That's why it's 120. But it was around 1,200. That's what it was worth. And then just saw that decline, negative news, and we had this heavy decline, kind of like a head and shoulders here, little pattern, retrospect. But it's been nothing but kind of accumulating around this area. It's had some bids, some days where it kind of tries to break above this area of resistance. So you can see this swing high, and you can see it's been nothing but rejected. So we're still below this. The sellers are still in control of the name. I'm not looking to enter this name at all right now. I'd say the only bullish signal would be if it breaks above $62. That would be an initiation towards the upside, and try to challenge, break above here, and the next price target would be around $97, around there. But right now it's not doing anything. It's just been consolidating, been nothing but a very boring stock, to be honest. Since pretty much the whole year, the beginning of the year, it's been nothing but consolidating. Had some upward moves, but not really too strong of a name here. Looking at C3AI, same thing. This name, I remember the IPO, they had very nice momentum. If you look at the weekly, it's been nothing but decline. IPO at around $117, had a nice bid for a couple days, couple weeks, and then boom, declined. So we're still below key areas, as you can see. Very strong upward move, but now we're kind of within this zone right now. Honestly, for the full breakout long, we would have to break above $50 here on the weekly. Pretty much challenge those highs there. So it's not looking too bullish here on C3AI. AMD, this one's looking like it's setting up. Finally broke above this recent swing high anchored VWAP, like I stated in my videos, and kind of pulling back on overall, but on the day is pretty strong. It's up 2%, and there's underlying strength in the name. To be fully long, like full position, we have to get above 146. So I believe the next area of resistance towards we may find some supply is going to be around the 140, which is a swing high from this all-time high that we had in March of 2024 when Nvidia was going upside, but AMD declined. So we may find some supply there at 140. $140.78 there on AMD. But looking at it on the intraday, it's sold off, but looks pretty strong. Still above the 50 EMA, holding that on the day. Let's see, the next name here is Cloudflare. This name's absolutely amazing. I mean, just look at it on the daily. Declined heavily on pretty much what the market was doing as well, but saw very intense bid, and we've been nothing but increasing from there. We are achieving a break of the all-time highs of 177. We're holding above that right now, and looks like it's kind of dying off a little bit. Maybe the momentum it's kind of fading a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a pullback, so we can find some more demand here and add towards the upside here. But the average long is winning. If we plot a swing anchored VWAP from there, the long was at this break of 134, and most likely they'll be willing to defend their levels to keep the overall profit that they they have, so we can find some more demand. Yeah, but overall it's looking pretty bullish here. Snowflake, this name, oof, I forgot about this name. I actually had it on my watch list, and I was just waiting for this thing to move, but it's like it did move on April, man. Very strong upward momentum. These cloud names, right? Let's see, very strong. Yeah, the 166 break, that was the long right there. Yeah, very strong name overall. Semiconductors, we have AVGO, very strong, pulling back. Let's see this name, ASML Holdings. Yeah, it looks pretty strong. I mean, it's finally trying to break above this area of resistance, which is swing high anchored VWAP. You guys see this white line here, and we've been beneath it. It's been acting as resistance, right? We go up, resistance, we bid up, resistance, bid up, resistance. So it's no joke, right? It's an actual level, and it looks like we finally broke above it after the earnings a little bit. Earnings are in a month from now, actually, and looks like it's trying to break above. It's having a hard time, but I like this break that we had here from this prior high in this prior area. But I'd say to be fully long, it would be around 780, and that would be a long entry. Try to challenge again the highs, maybe find some resistance here at 873, but it's got a long ways to go. But it is looking like it's trying to set up here, although it's having a hard time. Like I said here, looking at TSM. Very bullish name. It's like Nvidia, same thing. If you look at this, it's looking like an Nvidia chart. They're manufacturing, right? They're providing pretty much the shovels here on the AI race. It's been nothing but bullish here, and yeah, it's pulling back to key anchored VWAP. It found some support there. Had a strong decline. Actually went down $3, I believe, on the day here. Yeah. Very strong decline around here, but it's been bouncing a little bit. Still below the 50 EMA, but we have to see. It's not the shorter term time frame. The 5 minute is not in alignment with the longer term, right? The longer term trend is towards upside, but here TSM is seeing downside movement here on the overall intraday time frame. So it's not looking too good there. We'll have to see what it does. Intel. It's a mess of a company, right? They've been having a lot of, pretty much they're seen as, they fell behind on the AI race here. That's why, they've been selling off and actually broke below key areas of support. And it's actually at levels since like 1990. So if you've been holding this name since 1990, you pretty much did not gain anything on this name, on this stock at all. And yeah, it's... unless they've managed to get a breakthrough or try to catch up on here on the AI race and kind of lift up the investor sentiment, they'll still be within this range and be looking very bearish. So I'm not really interested on the name. Micron though is breaking out. Very strong momentum here now. Broke out around $110. Break above, looking strong. You may be prone for a pullback, but we believe we can achieve all-time highs. We actually have a detailed case here on Micron on our overall newsletter. If you guys want to check it out here, for example, we just kind of go over the thesis of why this name is long and why we are looking long on this name. So if we search up, for example, Micron, we actually had that as a trade of the week, and let's see if we can pull it up here. Trade of the week for Micron. Right here. So we posted this on the 15th of June, and it was the trade of the week here, so it was actually quite recent here, around 5 days ago. And we've looking really bullish, right? Because there's a lot of expansion seen. I really like the fundamentals of the company. There also the news that came in, right? The $200 billion chip expansion, right? And we're looking extremely bullish on this name. There's a sector risk level is moderate, not too heavy, but not too light. But looking at that reversal, pretty much it's kind of setting up on the daily. So we know we're seeing strong bullish momentum, and kind of qualified it as our trade of the week. It is officially reclaimed above key technical levels, so above the swing high anchored VWAP, so above here pretty much. If we plot that on there, above that swing high. And and also you guys have access to this if you guys just sign up. It's completely free to the Uplift Markets newsletter. We give this absolutely free. You guys can plot any type of indicator here. So for example, let's say we want to plot the see if I can find a VWAP. Oh yeah, anchored VWAP right from that high. We are above it, right? So the average short participant was short at $100, but now they started to cover, and we're seeing that nice upward momentum. So as long as we remain above this, it's a long on Micron, right? And let's see, strong momentum. Yeah, it's trading above the 50 EMA and 200 EMA, confirming institutional support for our case, and also a golden cross forming on the daily chart. If you can pull that up there, right? And our ideal entry, right? We're watching for a pullback towards 108 here. Maybe see if we have a pullback here towards 108. It's kind of getting a little bit overextended for us here before the entry, but it's looking quite nice. It's bullish. First price target is a level of 137, and which would be an area around here, right there. And second price target 156, which are the all-time highs. Right, we firmly believe it can achieve that all-time high and try to challenge that. Not bad. Yeah, and the fundamental catalyst that came in, right, is that they recently unveiled a $200 billion investment plan to scale U.S. chip manufacturing. So we've been seeing a lot of investments coming in from these chip manufacturers towards the U.S., right? And also Project Stargate. It's like everyone forgot about that, right? Wasn't it like $500 billion investment from, Nvidia and, important pretty much everything involved in AI here. So what they're looking to do here, example, on Micron, they're looking to spend $150 billion on new semiconductor facilities across the following: Idaho, New York, and Virginia. And also they're looking to have $50 billion dedicated alone towards R&D development, which it's absolutely amazing. And also it just reinforces the investor sentiment that they are expanding, they are looking to grow, they're investing in the future, and it shows their dominance in the AI and data structure area, with also the chip innovation and manufacturing, right? So it's giving the further conviction, like I said, these fundamental news towards the technical setup. And I'd say the risk management is, if the stock breaks below $100, then it's invalidates the uptrend that we're seeing. And I'd say risk no more than 2% of your overall portfolio on this trade. But yeah, like I said, if it breaks below 100, then it invalidates this current upside move that we're seeing, right? But if it comes, supports, and propulses higher, then it's still an upward move, and we would be looking bullish on Micron. So yeah, it's our top setup of the week. And like I said, due to the fact that it's above its swing high anchored VWAP, it's above the 50-200 EMA, and also because it's also forming a bullish golden cross on the day. So we're liking that Micron name right there. Let's see if we pull this on here and zoom that in. So now going back to the overall indices, and looking at the overall intraday time frame here on the day trade, we see the market pulled back exactly towards the 50 EMA and VWAP, and it's kind of rejecting that now because on the day we are pretty weak, and I do expect the market to decline here as we're gonna have that triple witching effect, like I previously stated. And at the beginning of the day, we're seeing nothing but pretty much negative headlines, right? And unfortunately, it's just bringing the market down, right? It's pretty heavy, and the market needs some good news, or just neutral news, in order to increase on the day. But let's say we are pulling back quite heavily. For example, Apple, now it's finding that pullback now because we're below VWAP. Nvidia here on the day, yeah, it's finding that. So like I said, that was looking like an area here to kind of sell Nvidia, because it was forming confluence with the prior pivot point here. So like I said, a pivot point, area VWAP, 200 EMA and 50. So like I said, that area is pretty intense area of resistance where the overall participants were looking pretty heavy there on the name. So looking at several time frames, looks like there's pretty much not a lot of strength on Nvidia. So yeah, it's looking like it's continuing to decline from this pullback. We'll have to see what it does. Let's see. Google on the day, same thing. Very, very weak. Very weak. We saw a little bit of bounce, but not even close to VWAP. Not like these other names, 170 would have been nice there. But, just heavy selling on Google. And, it's understandable, right? It's kind of, been less favored here between investors. And look at that. Look at that pullback on the daily. Jesus Christ. It opened at $170. 73. It's now down $5 here. Pretty much almost, yeah, $5. Yeah, it's having some trouble getting above there in these areas. Yeah, so I say the weakest Mag 7 names are Google and Apple. The rest are doing pretty well. I say also as well, pretty weak has been Tesla on the daily, right? So I say those three names are looking pretty bearish. But other names, for example, Meta, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, I think I already mentioned that, and Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, and Meta are the strongest ones. They've been looking pretty good on their dailies. And they're providing a lot of value to investors. But Apple's been seen as behind right now in the AI race. They had their WWDC conference, and investors were pretty hopeful of having something innovative. But guess like we didn't, right? We didn't really have anything with innovation. Probably just liquid glass, right? And it's not really anything with AI. Siri is still the same, absolutely horrible. It's like hasn't been updated. And like I said, right, they're kind of, I guess they're starting to catch on that, right, that the market is not, looking too bullish on them if, they can't innovate anything, so far. It's been kind of seen, right, every iPhone release is pretty much the same. It's like, like a copy paste for next year. That's why also Apple is looking to, increase the time they release an iPhone now to, instead of being every year, now it's being every 2 years, because they're also kind of liking that innovation. And we'll have to see what the company does. But Apple isn't going anywhere in the near future, so it may be a pretty good time to buy the dips here on the daily. So we'll see. Amazon, yeah, pretty weak on the day. Like I said, it's not too strong, still below the 50 EMA, below the overall here the 200, showing that relative weakness on Amazon there. Pretty weak. Pretty weak there. Meta as well. Yeah, pulling back now. I mean, when a stock is below its 50 EMA on the 5 minute, it's just, showing that weakness overall, right? Very, very confusing name here. I mean, let's look at the overall volume gainers, right? The most heavily traded, you could say, here on the Nasdaq. So let's look at that. So number one is Nvidia, and it's been like that number one since the open, pretty much. It's done 110 million here in volume, which is quite nice because generally when that happens, there's a lot of moves either towards the upside or towards the downside, which can be taken advantage of with longs, or with the long calls or long puts. But I mean, for now, Nvidia is looking pretty short, right? So if you have any long puts here at this break here, the 50 MA 145 long put, you're absolutely in the money, right? So yeah, so looking pretty short here. As well, one of the top gainers as well was here, Lucy, Innovative Eyewear. So it's been, above its 50 MA, so this is pretty strong, but there's underlying strength in the name, but it's having a very hard time, getting above, propulsing above. We kind of get above $5, around near $5. We see some selling this upper wick, and honestly, this name is pretty much it has been heavily traded, right? It's 66 million in volume today. But if we look at the daily and we say, okay, let's look at going along this name, right? Well, where has it potential to go, right? Where's the potential resistance or supply? And it was exactly at the 200 EMA. So there really wasn't a lot of room to take profit, even if it would spike a lot. Probably next resistance would be this prior area high here, the $5.50. So unless you go big boy share size, like thousands of shares, there really isn't gonna show any profit here. But still surprisingly pretty strong on the day, regardless of the market. It's up 75%, so it's pretty bullish there. Third here in line is Tesla, with coming here with $52 million in volume here. Dollars, over here thinking about dollars. 52 million here in volume. The average is 114, but still doing pretty heavy. It was kind of holding above its 50 EMA. It broke below that, and had that strong downward momentum. Kind of seeing some strength here relative. So Tesla's looking a little bit relatively stronger than Nvidia. Nvidia's kind of seeing that was kind of pulling back there, and Tesla hasn't really pulled back, seeing that upper momentum. So I say a long here on Tesla would be there at 324, although maybe it's going to be flat on the day because there's multiple like I said, different signals across multiple time frames. So on the 5-minute chart, it's showing a little bit of weakness, but on the 30-minute chart, based off EMAs, it's showing a high percentage of underlying strength. So those mixed signals, right, are not allowing the stock to have those nice uptrend moves or downside moves, right? So, and it's also been trading within a range, so not really too good. Intel, surprisingly, 49 million in here in volume, and very, very, very bearish name. Look at that, $21 decline. All the way down here to 20. The pivot point found support exactly at that S1, and rally towards the 50, and looking like it's rejecting at the 50 EMA right here, just declining pretty heavy. Looking at AMD as well, same thing. This one was pretty strong on the day, but following Nvidia with the news as well. It's just been having a hard time being strong, right? It's relatively looking good on the daily, but obviously with all the intraday news and just the new headline driven market that we're seeing, any news can just bring it down and kind of factor that in. So that's why we have to be a little bit more careful when we're intraday trading, right? The 5 minutes and all that stuff, because the trend is less likely to hold, right, compared to a 50 EMA. Say longer term trend like the daily or the weekly, where we do have those trends holding quite heavily, right, because there's more energy needed to bring it down or reverse it, right? So just a matter of time there. Also, another name I was looking to be long, actually, good thing we did not enter this name, was here Warner Bros. Discovery was doing pretty heavy volume. It's done 43 million here on the day. I was looking to go long here, so I placed this trigger above $11. I thought it was gonna break. It was looking pretty strong here. If we kind of factor that in, it was looking pretty strong here at the beginning of the day, and I thought breaking this high of $11, so around this pretty much this alert that we placed, it was going to be a long for us with a stop loss around this area or around here $10. But we did not, and saw strong selling, fell below VWAP, broke this prior higher low, pretty much this higher low that was forming, broke that. So the short could have been here 1089, big boy share size, and failed that. We didn't even hold the 50 at all, not even that pretty much pivot point as well, R2, we did not hold that at all. We only found support at the pivot point here and kind of formed confluence with the 200, but still found support there, rally towards the 50, and now it's selling off here and may look to go towards here 1057. or kind of consolidate around this area, maybe find support again at 1054 here. There's a lot of areas here, but that's where it may find support here on Warner Brothers Discovery. This name also as well, the next name here is Lucid. It's been popping up a lot here. It's been doing a lot of relative overall volume, but it's just not liquid. If you pull this up here on the 5 minute, you just look at the candlesticks, right? Like, if you day trade this thing, you're going to be heavily, wicked, right? Let's say you go short the name or something, right? You can be heavily short squeezed on this thing, but it's doing a lot of volume here, right? But it's just not liquid enough for a day trade, right? Maybe it's a day trade, it's pretty good, right? I mean, a swing trade, you can kind of hold it, but man, this seems just bearish. Horrible name, man. It's just declining quite heavily. Lucid's not too heavily favored as well by the market, so not too surprised. It's not traded more often. SRM, this name has been popping a lot here on the overall scanner here on TradingView, and this is strong on the day. We compare that to the market. It's been nothing but increasing, and look at that. Broke above there. This would have been 10 long, profit there. Actually went up $2. So, with big boy share size, that would have been a nice trade there. So it found resistance at R5. So the max resistance level, because there's no other areas here. It found, that's where it got overextended and sold down towards VWAP and kind of found support near the 50 EMA and still rising 50 EMA. So rising slope, it's pretty strong on the day compared to overall market. Here, SoFi, this seems bullish on the daily. I've been, reiterating that on, a couple of my videos. Just showing the intense strength that this name has been seeing on a daily. And right now, I believe that, it's just, digesting the news after seeing, digesting the price action after seeing the intense move here we've been seeing on SoFi. Looking at Apple as well. Let's see. Apple's been heavily, we already reviewed that. Palantir still strong on the daily, but here on the intraday, pretty weak. Rejected VWAP. American Airlines. Now, these airlines names, they've never been a good investment, man. They've never been a good investment. Google, yeah, pretty heavily, 24 million. I thought Google would do more. It's not doing too much there on the shares. Amazon, yeah, pretty weak. Vodafone Group. The wireless telecommunications. Yeah, pretty weak on the day. Found support at the 50, but it's not too liquid. Wolf, yeah, this one I was looking to probably do a swing trade on this name, but my thesis isn't happening yet. I'd say, yeah, see, rejected the swing high anchored VWAP again. Jesus. I was looking to go along this name if it, from the swing high, if it broke above here, like 475 would have been a nice long, right? 475 would have expected that movement towards the upside. So, I would expected, some movement like, this type of candle and, having this and, propulsing like that. That would be a nice initiation and, trying to go swing trade that, but nah, rejected. Found sellers here at that swing high and looks like it's still bearish. So it's still having time. Still needs some time to recover in there. See, the other name that's done a lot of shares here is Firefly. Yeah, Firefly, yeah, but it's been pretty heavily short. The liquidity is drying up. Nah, not interesting. Mara, these miners. Yeah, honestly, I see no future in the miners, man. It's each day it's becoming more expensive to mine Bitcoin, and each time there's less supply of it. It's honestly just don't buy the miners. Honestly, just buy the actual Bitcoin or any type of fund that tracks it. That holds it, like IBIT, the BlackRock ETF. That's a pretty good one investment. If you don't want to just hold outright Bitcoin, but the miners, it's not the way to play crypto, in my opinion. Here, on the daily is just horrible. I mean, you can look at that. The fundamentals don't even add up as well, and it's been nothing but decline since 2024. End of that, you got to see this name and see Quantum. Yeah, Qubit. I mean, there's a lot of, this is a little bit of a speculative action. Quantum is maybe the next move as well, maybe the next kind of advancement here in technology, but we're still, I'd say pretty far from it. In the next, probably see that in the next couple 5 to 6 years. We're getting closer each day, but it's a little bit more of a speculative play. You can probably put a small amount here, see what it does. Allocate maybe a small percentage of the portfolio to this, maybe like a 1%. Probably no more than 5% of the portfolio allocation. Speculative money. See if it does play. We'll have to see that on Quantum. But yeah, it's been seeing nothing but upside on the daily. And then last name that's been a lot of volume has been Irene Limited. Did not know what this is. Data processing service. Yeah, it's done more than it's done more than its average volume and market cap of almost 3 billion. Yeah, look at that. On the daily, looking like it's trying to break out. Yeah, it looks pretty strong, I guess. But nah. Irene Limited. Not really. So let's go back to Nvidia. Yeah, so it's seeing a little bit of buyers here coming in. Although, I'm liking how it's still below the 50 EMA and 200 EMA. Just showing that underlying weakness that it's been seeing. Oh, shit. Came back and held that. So it's kind of pinching right now, right? There's this battle between, sellers, which is a longer term trend here. I mean, you can say this, right, on the 5-minute, not the daily's case, but the main trend you can say is a downside trend, right? But we're seeing a trend within a trend, which is a bullish trend, this little bounce that we're seeing. And since we're between these two VWAPs, you can say, and kind of holding, and then there's this battle going on, right, between the buyers and sellers, and generally it tends to favor towards the sellers. So I do expect downward movement here, maybe a break of 143, this 143.63 were supposed to just add confluence to the selling. And if it does reverse, then it would have to be a break above those VWAPs. So intraday VWAP around break above $144.60. That would be the upward move, the upward projection there on Nvidia overall. And yeah, it's looking pretty bearish today, not looking too favorable. And yeah, like I said, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't done so, and give it a like so we can get to more people and give them more insights here on the markets. Let's see. Yeah, markets look pretty bearish. See how the triple Q is doing. Let's see how the triple Q doing. The overall Nasdaq. See me type that. Yeah, pretty bearish. We're down now a little bit more than the last time we checked. Down a little bit more than 1/3%. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, rejection here above the 50 EMA. That downward movement. Yeah, pretty bearish. Yeah, we haven't really had too much of a headline overall on the market that really, like, you could say could impact. Let's see. Interesting. Yeah, so this is like the news that we got recently. So checking here on my little side chart here, we had this news that came in by Reuters that the U.S. is preparing action targeting allies' chip plants in China. reporting here. So a U.S. official has informed leading global semiconductor companies of plans to cancel waivers allowing them to use American technology in China. The Wall Street Journal reported on Friday, citing people familiar with the matter. Let's see. Jeffrey Kessler, Undersecretary of Commerce for Industry and Security at the Commerce Department, told Samsung Electronics, SK Hynix, and Taiwan Semi this week that he wanted to cancel those waivers. That's why it fell down. Okay. The move would make it harder for foreign chip makers to operate in China, where they produce semiconductors using a wide range of industries. So again, the China factor here. Yeah, it's having a little bit of trouble right here. Yeah, so that downward projection is still being seen here on Nvidia. We can kind of factor in using Fibonacci, kind of see if we're going to find some resistance. So let's see, measuring from the beginning of this move towards that. So that's what we found the support there. So we got a little bit overextended at 1.618. That's what we found that bounce. And there's a level of resistance here, 0.786. So there's a possible retracement towards that area. And when it gets too overextended, is around 140. But I don't think we'll see that today. It's pretty far-fetched. 140 and 72 cents there. Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm not looking too bullish on that right there. But yeah, overall, I guess we'll leave it at that for today. As always, please stay uplifted. And feel free to subscribe to the Uplift Markets newsletter and to the channel. And always, giving a like to the channel so we can, add to more people and, spread the message here of the overall market to stay uplifted and, stay on alert for the video that will be coming out today at 1 p.m. where we factor in a little bit more here of the rate cuts and, the economic uncertainty and what this Iran/Israel war may impact the overall markets and what it means for the overall portfolio here. So without further ado,